we have Scott here recording the meeting for us. It'll be back live pretty soon on the myottawa.org.
We're not live, no. This is just
We're
recording.
live now.
We're not going live
No.
with it. We're just recording it.
We're just recording it,
Yeah.
but it will be back for you to see on myottawa.org, correct?
Correct.
There we go. We were at, Mayor, you're just about ready to do a little presentation and give us some information about some of the laws of the IRS and
Well, I think the last item we talked about is.
you're gonna have to really speak up.
Okay. Oh, that's
That'll
not working,
help.
yeah.
Use your own site, please.
I think the last item we were talking about was work location, whether the decision is whether this is your work location, this facility, and then other individuals were saying that they have home offices. So whether that is the work location. And there are some stipulations and factors in the IRS publication that, you know, we can identify so that you can determine, yes, my home office can be considered my work location. And if that's the case, well then when you come to the building, you're not commuting. If this is your work location, then when you come here, you're commuting and it's not deductible. It's not to say that you can't get paid, but it will be taxable because that's what the IRS says. And then I think one of the last things, I think someone asked, what are other counties doing? And from what I can find online, not publications, but any meetings or policies that I found, there are at least a handful that do not reimburse commissioners for in-county travel. They only reimburse for out-of-county travel. And these are also commissioners that are getting a salary similar to what you all are getting. So I think that's kind of where we left it.
But this is not, to me, this is more of a reimbursement than an expense for us. Is there a different an explanation on that part or not really?
No,
Okay.
no, it's either where's your work location and where are you traveling to?
So what's the definition of home office?
Well, there are some in the publication that states that this is, there isn't a percentage again because the IRS, code is not very straightforward on some of these things. But if most of your work is being conducted in this home office, and you would all have to, attest to that so that we have it. And if you're saying you want your own policy, then that would be in, that policy. So, and that's another question, if maybe that's the first deciding factor. Do you want your own policy and continue, for transparency's sake, which I believe some commissioners are communicating, or do you want it to fall into the employee policy with an exception as how we presented it there?
Okay. But my thought here is we'll go around the table and head nod whether we all think that our office is our home house, and if it's different, otherwise we'll give direction for them to go forward with that, and then we'll table it and bring it back with that information, and then would give them more information, and we can have that for next month. Would that work?
Phil, would it also be helpful for us to get a sense of whether people think commissioners should have our own policy versus, and I guess essentially that's what we would be voting on this item anyways. Do we want to keep our own policy, or do we want to, get rid of it?
I'm leaning into the mic, but there's no.
I know.
With that, from a staff perspective, procedurally speaking, with transparency, does that simplify things if commissioners have their own policy, or does that make it more complex? We want to make your job easier. It doesn't matter.
I don't think it makes it more complex, because it has to still run through a process. It just wouldn't run, it'll continue running through the process that it does now, which is not through the AP process. If it's all under the employee policy, then it would all run through the AP process, and it would show up kind of what Karen was saying in that AP run under your names. So it kind of depends on what you want the policy to separate to be for, transparency, clarity, or So that's really your decision.
Is there anybody that would disagree that our office is our home office in our district at our house? Is there any that says no? Okay.
And we can bring back, you know, more information on the stipulations that the IRS code says that you kind of have to meet in order, because, I mean, I could say I have a home office too, right? But there's, in order for it to be deductible, you have to, you know, kind of meet some stipulations that are in the IRS publication, which we can kind of, you know, send that over and maybe have some more vetting on that, which might make it more clear.
The headline that says Ottawa County Commissioners investigated by IRS doesn't read well. So yes, please.
Correct, and that's kind of what we're trying to, making sure that we are following the IRS publication and, you know, protecting, you know, you, us, the county as a whole.
Any other comment, Deb, or is that
No,
answer your
I
question?
just be very reluctant to get rid of our existing policy, so we can fold that change or that clarification into our existing expense and mileage policy. That would be very helpful.
Well-
If that's what you guys have to vote on, if you want to keep your policy, your own policy, or, you know,
But
go
for the
into the
moment, we're
influence policy.
tabling
Gotta make a
number
motion.
3, right?
Yeah.
We'll table number 3 and 4 for the time being.
That's what
And
I'm
bring
saying.
it back.
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah.
Motion table.
By Doug, and second by Joe.
Yep.
All in favor of this table,
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yeah,
Think the same.
We're not on mic. so-
Aye.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? Gary, comment.
Just a quick clarification. I hope you can appreciate what staff did as we roundtabled this issue. There were some that were very adamant for the fact that you work from home, and others that were pretty adamant that this is your workplace. So again, we had a lot longer discussion even than you guys had. And so tabling it is fine with us. I think we have a little bit of direction now. And so I think we can come up with something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Gary, I don't think we do appreciate what you guys just went through, your staff, on this issue,
Yeah.
but it helps us. And so we just want to say thank you, because it is helping us clarify what we need and what we want to do, so it's
We've
good work.
constantly, over the last several months, heard the word transparency, and that's, I guess, what we're trying to create for you all as it comes to this topic.
All right. Move on to action number 5, the substance abuse policy. The motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners revised substance abuse policy for a first and second reading.
So moved.
Support.
Motion made and supported.
Is, they can't see, is Scott in the
Scott's
back?
back there.
Why don't you go see if he's around? This is his policy for HR.
So I'll say this while we're at it, I've drafted these kind of policies before, I thought it was well done. In my mind, it picked up the nuances of what we can do and what we can't do as a matter of law. I thought it was well done.
This is critical to the county, and it really explains what the county has to do from the point in time where they become aware of a situation. And, this creates legal aspects, and so again, having a clear defined policy like that's reviewed constantly is important.
I just have a couple very minor things. On page 56, second paragraph,
Is that 1.3
that would be 1 point,
or
or
2?
2.
There is
I'm
no 2,
confused on the numbers,
unfortunately,
but
no.
it's the second paragraph under procedure.
Okay.
The last sentence, I'm wondering if we should be omitting the word legal. So if you read the whole paragraph, however, the county does not condone the abuse of drugs or alcohol before or during work. And it got rid of the word legal in the first sentence, but it kept the word legal in the second sentence. And so I'm just wondering if we should also eliminate the second legal word in that paragraph.
Kind of seems like it.
I also thought it was a little odd that it says we don't condone the abuse of drugs or alcohol before or during work, but that makes it sound like we condone it.
I agree.
That really makes sense to me.
Okay,
We just
good
leave out
points
the
all
red
around.
letter. We just leave off the red letter then?
I think so.
It's trying to clarify something that doesn't make, doesn't need to be clarified.
Fair point.
We kind of opened the door there, so.
I think what it's trying to do is to say, look, what you do in your own time is your own time, but don't bring it to the workplace, you know? I mean,
Sometimes if you use it the night before, it's a problem.
well, that's the problem with, frankly, the marijuana law right now. I mean, you know, come to work, you have it, your stuff still in your system, it stays in a long time. And that is a problem employers are facing. Right.
Yeah.
So John, in that vein, on 4, I believe, and it talks about marijuana. I mean, we all have different opinions on Michigan's marijuana laws, but marijuana is a legal substance, so I don't know what we can be saying about that.
Setting policy, I guess.
The use or possession of marijuana is prohibited, basically what it's saying.
Right.
Which I don't know if we can do.
Yes.
It says which have not been legally obtained.
No, there's a comma there, right?
There's a comma, yeah, but I fully support the language that's in here. I think it's good for the county.
But can we
Set
do
a
that?
standard.
Yeah, you can.
we
If
can
you
do
think
that.
about,
Yeah.
let's just say you have a company with forklift drivers. You can't have somebody driving around with a forklift that's on marijuana.
But then we're not clarifying that word. What we're saying, and then maybe I'm misreading this, the sentence says, the use of marijuana is prohibited when you get rid of everything else.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we can do that.
It
From a legal
does say
standpoint.
which have not been legally obtained in it.
No, it says or drugs.
Or.
It would have, I see what you're saying. So you don't think that should be.
I think the red letter addition of marijuana, I don't think we can do that. I mean, it's not a value statement about the use of marijuana because generally speaking, I'm not in favor of it, but I think the law is the law. I don't think we can prohibit employees from using marijuana, which is a legal substance in Michigan.
I do see what you're saying.
What we can do, good afternoon.
You just gotta speak up.
Oh, okay,
There is no
okay.
microphone.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So since it's federally it's legal, the county can take the position. As such, it is a mind-altering drug, whether you have a medical card for it or not, or whether it's legal in some states, including Michigan. We know that, but the county has every right to expect its employees to be functioning under sound mind when they're working.
But again, the question is, can we prohibit a state legal substance? Which is basically what we're doing.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
saying the use of marijuana is prohibited. Can we prohibit employees from, again, I'm not advocating for the use of marijuana because I'm not. What I'm saying is, can we actually do this?
Well, I think, Commissioner, as far as the policy itself speaks to work, any policy we have, in my estimation, is work-related as far as coming to work and being properly suited to work.
Right, and maybe we need to clarify that because, again, the way I read this, dropping out some of the other parts is the use of marijuana is prohibited.
It doesn't say that though, Doug. It says that have not been legally obtained.
No, it's an or drugs which have not been legally obtained. It just says,
Just coming in, which bullet are we on, please?
so I think it's procedure, it's either 3 or 4, normal county benefits paragraph. When you strip out the ors, it says the use of marijuana is prohibited. Now, if we can prohibit marijuana, that's something different. But I don't know if we can prohibit the use of marijuana.
So
Again, I'm
Scott,
not advocating for the use of marijuana, I'm advocating for us doing the right thing.
you see the language he's talking about? Okay, let's, because I think I have a solution to it, Doug.
That's fine, I just wanna make sure we're on the right path here.
Yeah.
And we're not telling, employees one thing and state law telling them another.
You see it, Doug, or Scott, when you get to it, let me know, and I want to just point out something to you.
It's the third paragraph under procedure, Roman numeral.
Normal.
Oh, yes, I'm with you now.
Okay, so the sentence goes,
Yeah.
the use or possession of illegal drugs, marijuana, or drugs which have been illegally obtained.
So there are three things in that list. Illegal drugs, marijuana, or drugs which have not been legal. So there are three things that we are prohibiting.
So Scott, if we just took that paragraph, because what he's bringing up is an ambiguity he sees, right?
Yes.
But if we took out marijuana or drugs, those two words, so then it would read, the use or possession of illegal drugs, and you don't even have to say the next line.
Right,
They have
the third one is redundant.
You don't even need it, or is prohibited. You've got the same context, right? So
Yes.
it's illegal drugs are illegal drugs that are not obtained legally and are not prescribed by law. It's the same thing. So just cut out the rest of that sentence and just go, the use or possession of illegal drugs is prohibited.
But do we need to address marijuana specifically?
I do think that maybe it was inserted here to make that clarification.
That's
But
all.
Yeah, the only-
in making that clarification, we're actually stating something, and I don't know if we can state what is being stated. Is that there is illegal drugs, there are illegal drugs, and there is marijuana, and both of those are prohibited. Employees cannot engage in either of those.
I
Which
don't
I
read
don't
it that
know.
way. It just says, which have not been legally obtained.
Well, it says or, so it's creating three different things.
No, the or is about illegal drugs, marijuana, or drugs.
Which have not been legal, which is a redundancy from the first part. like
Well,
John
what
said.
I think what it's saying, Commissioner, is illegal drugs, and it's giving, I think, reference to marijuana, because marijuana is a legal drug. So that's why it says illegal drugs, marijuana in its own, and this is a
So what
common.
you're saying is marijuana is an illegal drug. Is that a clarification?
No, not that it's an illegal drug, because it's not, the reason it's called out is because it's not an illegal drug.
Right.
And this is something that's a very common ad that I've seen across policies
So what you're saying is
in the
we have
state.
the ability to prevent employees from using marijuana.
From being under the influence of.
But that's not what it
marijuana or
says.
using
It
it.
says the use or possession is prohibited. You're saying
You're taking it
employees
almost-
cannot
we're trying
cannot
to-
possess marijuana.
Yeah, We're,
I just want to make sure we're saying the right thing, and we're adding something
I-
new, and I want to make sure what we're adding
Well, yeah,
actually makes sense.
If I may, I mean, we're putting marijuana in the same category as we have alcohol.
How do you see that?
Because alcohol is also restricted, it's legal.
Well, we're saying arriving for work under the influence of drug or alcohol. So in that sense, we're qualifying the use of alcohol when you're under the influence, when you're coming. But the previous sentence is a blanket statement saying use or possession of marijuana is illegal.
Not legally obtained. It's not legally obtained. That, I think it's there's a misunderstanding
But you
of
can legally obtain
grammar.
marijuana in the state of Michigan, so that wouldn't apply.
No, the use or possession of illegal drugs, marijuana or drugs, so you could read it so just read it with marijuana. The use or possession of marijuana, which has not been legally obtained by employees, is prohibited.
So as long as you're
That's not what it
obtaining your
says.
marijuana legally, then it's not prohibited.
That's not what it says, though.
Which you can do right on 31, right?
There's three items in this sentence.
Right, and I agree with Joe, there are three items.
That the use or possession of marijuana is prohibited. That is what it says in the policy.
Right, so
Because
if we
there are
can't say
three
that,
separate things.
we need to be realizing that's what we're saying.
Is this talking about during work hours? or
No,
is
it's
this
not, it's just
talking about
saying
your
you cannot
in
possess
your
marijuana
entire-
as an employee.
The
Again, I'm
sentence-
not advocating for marijuana, I'm gonna advocate for the right policy.
The sentence on its own is what Doug is saying. If you just read it word for word and don't insert pauses or commas anywhere, Doug is saying, it is saying that the use of marijuana is prohibited.
So
I mean, I actually support that. So if, I'd be.
Again, I am
moving
not
forward.
making a value judgment about the use or
Right.
possession of marijuana, I just wanna make sure that we're not saying something to employees that we're not legally allowed to say.
So I guess that's the question. Are employees, and are employers in the state of Michigan legally allowed to set a prohibition against marijuana use for their employees?
No, not
that's what we're
in
doing.
their personal, no, not in the personal space, as it relates to their ability or inability to perform work. So if that means I didn't partake in marijuana use at work, but I did prior to work and it's affected I'm under the influence, that would be the same thing as alcohol or illegal drugs. So that's what its point is. If you're taking it, I think on a holistic one sentence, I do see your point, Commissioner, that you're making a mandate that's prohibited for me as an employee, period. And that is not the spirit of what the intent. So we need to, grammar-wise is what you're saying. It could be interpreted that way. Yes.
That we don't have the power to
Yep.
mandate.
I go back, I think my suggestion works. The use or possession of illegal drugs is prohibited.
I totally agree with John, that gets rid of the ambiguity. We're not clarifying, we're not telling them that they can or cannot use marijuana.
Right.
We're saying if it's an illegal drug, you can't use it. Now, you have the difference between federal and state, how they view marijuana, and, maybe we need to clarify, are we including marijuana as an illegal drug or not?
Well, I do think that our concern about marijuana is solved by the next sentence, arriving for work under the influence of drugs or alcohol to the extent that job performance
I
may be
totally agree
adversely
with that.
affected
I
is
totally
also
agree with it.
prohibited.
But I just don't want us to say, look, no employee in Ottawa County can buy marijuana. Because that's what we're saying.
I think with John's clarification,
Yeah, I
and
totally
then a
support that.
follow-up sentence, I think we're
I
clear.
totally support both of those, for sure.
There's actually one issue with removing drugs which have not been legally obtained. We should leave that in there, because Vicodin can be legally obtained, right? It's not an illegal drug.
So it's not a redundancy, and I see that now, for sure.
So the wording really should stay, because if someone goes out and wants to abuse legal drugs, we don't want them doing that. We want to be clear that they can't borrow their mother-in-law's Vicodin, right? So leaving the language is probably a good idea.
But just taking out marijuana.
I'm not saying that, but
No, but
the
I'm
rest
just
of it,
saying,
yes.
if we cannot prohibit employees from possessing marijuana and using, a non-work time, then it shouldn't be here.
Right.
Okay.
If I may, I think I think the point that Commissioner Keeples made about just making this a statement about the use of possession of illegal drugs is prohibited. This policy, this section and this particular sentence is not meant to reprimand somebody, to tell them, hey, did you know that you can't use illegal drugs in your life at work or anything. That's not the point of the policy. The point is to go on to say, is really, and I think we could add this, is prohibited while at work. I think everybody knows illegal drugs are illegal. It says that. It's illegal. Whether you choose to partake, that's your business. It's illegal. I don't think we need a sentence that tells people it's illegal. The reason marijuana was added, because it's not just illegal drugs. It is including marijuana, that you can't be under the influence while at work. And so I think if we add that at the end, we accomplish, into Commissioner Moss's point, and I think somebody else made that comment, legally obtained, we want that in there. But I think if we say while at work, I think we could capture the sentence. The sentence has meaning.
I don't think it's just limits that. So I think we're making a policy statement with this sentence. We're saying, as a policy, as a commission, we're saying illegal drugs are prohibited.
Yes.
We don't want it, right? And the next sentence says, and don't bring it to work or else. That's what the two sentences seem to say, right? So the first sentence is a policy statement. We just fundamentally don't want you to be involved with something that's unlawful. That's what that says.
So if we added at work at the end of the current sentence, it would do that.
Yeah,
So no marijuana at the county building, no illegal drugs, and no drugs which have not been legally obtained.
I think that's fair.
It sounds like
Prohibited
it's
at work.
important to have marijuana in there
Yes,
with
that was
while at
intentional.
work.
Yes.
Okay.
It makes sense to me because we want clarity for the future. We don't want an employee to have pot gummies in their desk drawer and then say, yeah, but it doesn't say marijuana in the policy. We want clarity. And so adding the word.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. I
After
think that
prohibited, we
does
just add work. I like that.
Right.
Pretty clean. Anybody?
So we had employees,
So they're okay having it not at work?
We just can't prohibit it, Josh.
It's,
Josh,
that's
you wanna
not,
go that far into people's private lives?
I mean,
As
basically,
long as we're not encouraging it.
I just don't think we can prohibit it, so as long as we add at work, then does what we wanted it to do, I think. But
Does that
also
work for
doesn't
you, Scott?
overstep our bounds as.
It's a fair question that you raise, Commissioner, because if somebody is taking a sentence on its face, as Commissioner Moss mentioned as well, and agreed with that, I think that you could say, wait, are you telling me in my life how I have to run my life? It's prohibited, it's a legal substance, county. No, we're not saying that. So I think at work takes care of that. We're employers, so we're concerned about our employee, and I think we mentioned in the policy that we are concerned about the well-being of our employees, and we talk about if you need assistance, this sort of thing. So there's a soft landing for somebody who comes forward, right? So this isn't meant as a punitive policy in its, in its overarching sense. There is punitive in it, but it's also a well-being policy. So that accomplishes that.
so let me clarify one more point. I support that, right? So we're saying at work and while performing any business on behalf of the county. So we don't want you going off on the way to Timbuktu land and getting high, right?
That's good. He's hey, when I wasn't at work.
Right.
I was doing it, so I wasn't at work.
That's right.
It says at work.
So, and while performing any service on behalf of the county.
And then we're getting rid of the before or during work, right? Just getting rid of that altogether in the previous paragraph.
Scott missed that, but yeah, I'm fine with that.
Before or during work. It seems like we're condoning after work.
So striking that as the suggestion.
Right, the words before or during work, yeah, in the second paragraph.
So did you make a motion? Where are we on motions here?
Well,
We did, but then we changed it a little bit.
we're still trying to figure it out, I think.
A new,
Because
Amend your
I think actually, John, you brought up a really important point or something.
Okay, I didn't hear you. Okay.
Never mind, I'll just let
Yep.
go.
So we're gonna strike before and during work, and John, you're gonna add after employees is prohibited at work or any services related to the Ottawa County.
Or while performing any service on behalf of the county. We got that, Scott?
Yes.
Did we also strike the word legal in the paragraph above it?
That was where it said, with the abuse of legal drugs, so just with the abuse of drugs.
Right, so striking the word legal in
Yes.
that sentence.
It is struck.
Yeah.
yes.
The second one, with the abuse of legal. So the second legal should also be struck.
Yep.
So who made that motion? Because then we could just,
I made the motion on the at work, and John added the while providing service to Ottawa County.
But we never took a motion on mine either. I think
Yeah.
we're all doing it
We
collectively.
just do one
I
big
think.
motion and all.
Yeah.
I think so, somebody.
You up for?
I'll make the motion for those changes.
Do we got the changes?
Whatever that
We know what they are.
I
being recorded?
It's supported by
I
Allison.
support the changes.
All in favor of the changes, say by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
And then just item 7, can we have Scott address just any particulars that maybe he could mention to us? It just says certain departments may have additional restrictions. Is that too vague for a policy, or do you feel, is there comfort?
Scott will stay here and we'll address that. Thank you. We don't have to do that right now. Or let's move on to number 5 and vote on it, correct? That you would?
Oh, no, that's within the policy, Bill.
Yeah, number
It's
7
number 7
on the policy,
I'm sorry.
not the.
I did. I see you jumping to 7 on me. I'm like, what's this lady doing to me?
I was very confused for a moment.
Oh, that makes 2 of us.
Sorry to confuse you. So, number 7 on the current policy.
Okay.
On page 56 reads, certain departments may have additional restrictions, and I'm wondering if Scott, if you don't mind just touching base on that, it seems very vague for a policy.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, and rightly so, and that's the intent, is because there could be something that comes up in a certain department that isn't baked into the policy because it doesn't pertain to all departments or all employees. It does pertain to this particular department because of the work that they perform, in the, you know, maybe the equipment they're using, what have you. And so it is intentionally vague to leave us, so this isn't all-inclusive, that what about this? Well, your policy doesn't even say that, so how could you hold me accountable?
So they can restrict further, but they
Yes,
won't go
ma'am.
less than
Yes.
this current policy? Okay, thank you.
How far-reaching is this policy? Does it go into the road commission? Does it go into other places?
Doesn't go into the road,
Not
Ottawa County employees,
Just our,
just our employees.
are we at 1,100 employees, 1,200?
1,200 and change.
1,200 and change.
Are we included in that?
Depends where you're at.
Yeah, it depends where your office is.
You know, our place of work is our home, so don't get any ideas, Josh.
No more discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. All right, let's move on to number 6. Animals.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, animal and the county building policy. The suggested motion is to approve, move to the Board of Commissioners, animals and county building policy for its first and second reading.
So moved.
Support.
Motion made, supported. Gary.
In fact, Ron brought a friend of his to the current prosecutor's office to be in attendance today, I think just because of this policy. Again, we had a number of employees come to us and have some concerns about animals in the county building, animals in the court building, outside of being especially identified as comfort animals or trained animals for the court specific, such as the prosecutor, such as the sheriff's office. So there isn't that exception to this policy. Some employees are offended when there's animals in the workspace and they're someone's pets. We had other people approach us and say, if they can bring their dogs, I'd like to bring my cat. We said, it's just time for us to have a policy. And again, the workplace is a workplace. I did make a suggestion to one department head that said they could gladly go out and buy a dog, like to be a comfort dog in their office. They only cost about $10,000, $12,000, and they didn't have an interest in that. Again, I think it's important. So the question isn't raised every time somebody brings an animal that they feel is comforting. The state law actually identifies ponies, and we said, no, we aren't having ponies come into the building. So, again, it's pretty simple. Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Yeah.
Right, so obviously this is not one thing to do with the other, but, you know, over time, employees have talked about infants at work policy, whether we could look at having a policy on infants at work. I know that currently, you know, there is none, and I'm not equating animals and infants for sure, but if we're looking at animals, I think a lot of employees might appreciate being able to bring infants to work with them.
We can put that through policy and we can bring that to another time.
If
I don't
it's an
think this
issue.
is related to that at all.
If it's an
No,
issue.
I mean, I would say infants and animals are not
Correct.
related, but I'm saying,
I know what you're saying, Doug.
The timing of the question though.
Yeah. and
So
we-
regarding this policy, I do appreciate this policy being drawn up, and I think it's relevant to be speaking into. One caveat that I would love to have addressed in here is I would love to potentially have a paragraph that maybe says it's not allowed without prior approval from X person. And the reason why I say is having a caveat is that there are a lot of studies that have shown, especially dogs helping with things such as mental health. I could see avenues potentially sometimes with veterans, potentially using a dog for a special event. I could also see potentially with counseling or CMH. And so I would love to see, or with counseling, I even think about one of the rooms that's used over here to help with different families that have children that have gone through some awful things with social media and they're wrapping their arms around them. I would love to see a caveat brought in here, not allowed without prior approval. And then we give permission that we have who that person is that would allow that to happen. So that would be some feedback I would like to make a change on here if the board sees value in that.
So to piggyback on that, I think perhaps the distinction is that it would be for professional use. So maybe it could be something like additional cases of professional use would require prior approval, so that it's not employees bringing in their personal pet for themselves,
Yes.
but like if it's a therapist
Yes.
or for veterans or whatever, if it's being used professionally
To further the work of the county.
to further the work of the county, then yes, I could see it making additional exceptions, but.
Is that not covered in the second paragraph?
Well, I think the second paragraph, you know, has some things for law enforcement, but so maybe that's a good place for that clarification to land, that, you know, any additional use must be for professional service and with prior authorization. Or any additional use by other departments.
Because at this point in time, it reads that it covers Americans with Disabilities Act and those with Michigan Department of Civil Rights. Or you're reading the third paragraph, the law enforcement and prosecutors. So it covers a couple, but not all the additional things that I brought up.
Can I clarify, ask you for clarification?
Sure.
So are you still saying that the animal needs to be trained, registered service animal? And if so, you still have to get prior approval? Is that where your clarification comes in?
Not necessarily a trained animal. I would lean more on what Commissioner Rohde just shared with a professional use for the county work. So.
But you've already got that covered into the ADA provision in there. So you have that kind of thing that Sylvia's talking about already covered. And so the only distinction is, if I'm listening to you, is you're suggesting that they need prior approval for untrained or registered service animals. Is that where you're at?
Yes, and for things that are not currently covered, because I would say that it's pretty refined in here.
Can I jump in real quick? So I think you're kind of saying the same things, but the policy as it's written is fairly strict. I think what I'm hearing is a request to have the administrator be able to okay it in limited professional situations.
Yes.
So
That's
if
what I-
veterans has a dog fair and they bring in a dog that's not a $10,000 licensed dog, but they bring in a golden retriever to meet with veterans with PTSD, that at least be potentially allowed by the administrator.
So I've got concerns about that.
You do too.
So the ADA would, if somebody has an ADA issue or a doctor's excuse, they come up and they say, I'm going to take my golden retriever in, right? We have to, that administrator, whoever that is, has to make a decision under the ADA, right? But absent that, to give anyone, a department head, administrator, put them in a position of having to use discretion about whether to allow the golden retriever in, I think sets that administrator up for, and us, as a potential inconsistent policy enforcement, which could lead to a lawsuit. I'd rather say, administrator, you don't have any authority except to make sure you don't violate the ADA, for example. But otherwise, if it's not a registered animal, which is what this policy covers, you don't have the discretion. And so we can't be, then we prohibit this inconsistent application over time in the county that could expose us to a liability suit. So I'd say no to that.
Could we possibly do something in the middle where it would be available to other departments if it is a registered animal? Because I don't know that it's always, horribly difficult to have a registered animal. Because I do agree to some extent, you do want to make sure you have a trained animal. I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be a $10,000 trained animal, but, you do want to know the dog's going to behave. So,
I get it, but I'm struggling as well. Somebody comes to Gary or whoever and says, hey, my dog's really friendly, they're trained. I went, okay, can I bring them in? They bring them in and they bite some little kid.
well, I do think it's not just I went to a dog training class, but, if
But
it's,
then Gary's got to verify that.
You're talking about professional work.
Yes.
It sounds like there's a question about veterans or something, or CMH, or somebody else who might need a dog, is that?
you just don't want
The
to close the
unknown.
door. Yes, if there,
Is this an issue? No,
it's not, I don't think it's a current issue.
maybe it's not a, maybe it's
Sure,
not.
I guess it deals with trained, registered service animals.
Right.
That's acceptable.
Right.
So that must be a definition of what would qualify as a trained, registered service animal. No problem, right? So, in the way it's written.
Yeah.
It's only those other animals, and I would say,
Right.
we don't want to give the administrator or anybody else that discretion, but they still have to comply with the law, like ADA. Then we've got everybody
So you
covered.
can bring in a trained, registered service animal. You still probably gotta clear that through a department head or administration or something anyway, right? I mean, people aren't just bringing their animals in. Right?
I
It
will
would
say
be-
though, so we'll allow employees to do that, but if someone had a professional need to do that, we won't allow that professionally. That seems a little bit odd.
That's a professional.
Go ahead, Scott, please.
Just for a moment, I think Commissioner Mita brought this up originally, and now it's being talked about and discussed and further. There is a sentence in the final paragraph before the statutory references, state and federal law may supersede county regulation in certain circumstances. This may or may not be helpful and add value. I think Commissioner Moss said it seems very stringent, the policy. This is an opening for maybe, as Commissioner Rhodey was just mentioning, what about like in a mental health type of situation? Is there something out there? There could be. There could be. We know the ADA is a mandate in the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. There could be nuances in the law, so we give ourselves that opening in that regard. So that may not help with a casual bringing in a dog to help, the team or something. That probably doesn't address that, but in a more professional type of a reason may be covered in the law somewhere. So I just want to add that.
That's my read too. I think Sylvia's point is already covered with the language that's in there, Sylvia, I do. But going back to Allison's point, which is where I was wondering if you were going with this, is if someone wanted to bring in a trained, registered service animal, should they also give prior notice or should they also obtain prior approval of their department head or whatever? Should that also be a component to that? Or can they automatically bring that animal in? Gary, what do you think the need is there?
When Commissioner Miniman said that we were going to approve it, I would like to run each one of the requests that I've had since I've been back here by you and see what you think. I believe one day I was somewhat set up, and with the phone conversation I had when security over at the Family Justice Center called and said, do we have to put an employee's dog through the scanner? And I said, yeah, only if you can set it up on the conveyor belt. They said, no, it's a lot bigger than that, and they sent me a picture. And to me that was ridiculous, and they laughed about it too. And I said, no, you don't have to let that dog in the building. Oh boy, don't make us say that. And so I see that as a concern. I would hope that the department head, if they had a special situation, would sit down and talk to the county administrator, understanding that there's employees on both sides that feel passionate about maybe having their dog here. We talked about, again, the humor on our side saying, well, let's go to the county board and put some kennels back here. And, but the concerns are other employees say, well, they go and walk their dogs. Do I get my break to go outside the facility and walk around? So there's, for everything that we try to improve or make better, there's a what if. And, you know, I think we have to start by a policy. I think this policy, as Scott has indicated, covers it really well. And it may be reviewed in a year or two, because there may be special circumstances that we want to add. So I don't believe for a minute that this is going to be all-inclusive, because there will be something unique that comes along. And I think that those unique things is, you know, some other decisions we'll have to be made, so.
And I think that's kind of just the point is that if there is, you know, something that's an amazing opportunity to, you know, to help and to implement something into our services, just that it's not just automatically prohibited by this policy, but that, you know, it would be taken back to the board for consideration.
Absolutely perfect.
I feel comfortable with that.
All right, all in favor of this, John, I'm sorry, Jim.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, we're just trying to find the distinction between not having people bringing their pets in, no matter how friendly and cute and all that they are. And I think dogs should be in a special category. But we want some kind of animal, if there's like a reasonable professional reason for them to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my daughter has a comfort dog that the Coopersville Public Schools bought her. And it's extremely trained. Every day it goes to work at Coopersville Schools and goes into the office. And there's 50, 60 kids that want to go to the office to see the dog, and there's kids with special needs. And again, it's for their environment. You know, I think our environment's got to dictate service dogs or comfort dogs and pets. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you're saying exactly what I was going for, is it would be for the professional work of the county on behalf of citizens. And so that's why I brought it up.
Okay.
You know, my thought is that if the county board wants to buy a comfort dog, Regina would have a pet here sitting in our office for anybody that needs to come up and pet the dog. And so.
We'll work on that for Regina.
There you go.
All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank
All
you.
right. Number 7, the risk management policy. The suggested motion is to approve and forward to the commissioners a revised risk management policy for first and second reading.
So moved.
Support? You can support out there.
Support.
Motion won't support it. Discussion on this.
I just have one question on this. On page 2 of the policy, not sure where it's at in the packet, under objectives, there was a change on number 1. It used to be protect the assets of the county against any loss which might significantly affect operations. And now it's protect the county's assets from losses that could affect or disrupt operations. So that seems like its purpose has really loosened up. So I'm just wondering why, and the original statement just seems more appropriate to me.
In my reading of it, I actually like the revised. I think it gives us more latitude.
I think that
Is that what the idea?
I think when we adjusted it, we were just mimicking language that was either in the bylaws or something
Okay.
that was in a document that the insurance authority had.
Okay, there wasn't necessarily to broaden the scope of the work of the insurance.
No.
I still think, Mr. Rhodey, you have something there that I'm not sure that it really needs to be changed. I felt like the Hearst language was actually more clear. It was, and that's what I believe, I could be wrong, but I thought that that's really what we're looking at with the insurance authority is the significant, it may significantly affect operations.
We really base a lot of it on losses, so I know that that's a term we use a lot. So I know that, yeah, I guess it's, I don't really have I don't think this is gonna make or break. If you wanna switch it back, I'm not.
So I'll
Fine.
add a little bit, I mean, the rest of it, I appreciate the changes. I'm fine with leaving the first sentence if it's more specific or clear, but I'm glad to see that the insurance coverages are specifically named. I know that had been a discussion in the past too, of clarifying some of what is going on. So,
Yeah.
anyway, overall, the rest of it looks good to me.
Yeah, there were definitely some great cleanups.
I favor the change on that first sentence, and the reason for it is it doesn't tie the hands of the insurance authority as much as it might if it simply affected substantial issues. I just think it gives more flexibility to the authority to do what it needs to do when the time comes. And then the authority can do, under its board can do its thing. I just like the a little broader language on it, frankly.
Is the idea that keeping the word significantly limits the ability of the authority? In other words, somebody could argue in a lawsuit, well, that doesn't significantly impact it, so you can't use this.
Right.
Okay.
That's my point.
I mean, I don't think that that's a risk, because the purpose of the authority is very, very clear what it does. So whether it's the new language or the original, it doesn't actually change that much. I do think the original is more specific, but, you know.
That changes that much.
But what I don't want to see happen is for the insurance authority to use its powers in ways that it shouldn't. So, that would be my only concern, and I'm not saying that will happen, but I think that, I think that we need to always be careful when we're using legal power, especially if it ends up being, against citizens, or affects our citizens. So, I think that, I just think we always need to be careful in that regard. So as long as we're not, opening up what the insurance authority is going to be doing.
Can I give a reason why I think the original language is fine? Let's take a simple example like the sidewalks. No one's saying that by repairing the sidewalks, like that the repair itself is somehow a significant, going to significantly affect operations. But if someone were to trip on the sidewalks and sue for $500,000, that is going to significantly impact operations. So it's, you have to look at each circumstance in it, uniquely. And the insurance authority is there for mitigating significant risk. That's the purpose of it. It's not there for, a broad swath of things. So I think the original language is very clear, and that seems to have been the mantra for today is clarity. So.
Somebody want to make a motion to change it back or whatever, we can vote on it? Because I think we're all on different pages and see what happens.
I'll just make a motion to accept all the changes except the first line.
Should maybe just support any other comments or discussion about it.
Hang on a second, my mind's not processing very well.
It's the night the lights are out.
I'll make it loud.
While John's processing.
John's processing, Jim's gonna discuss.
I'll just jump in. Unless there's some legal significance, reason to change that language, I guess I don't, they look awfully similar to me. We're kind of dancing on the head of a pin, it
Yeah.
feels to me.
I agree with you.
But John, what do you?
I'd like to see the motion, Joe's motion, as a separate standalone. Should we change the first paragraph to, or not? Because then if we voted, then it's gone. And because I'm concerned, my mind, if I voted no, right, the way you proposed it, then I'm throwing out the whole baby with the bathwater issue. And I don't want to do
main motion though.
I don't want to do that, because there's, everything about this policy is good. I mean, there's so much about it, it's good.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have you make it a separate motion, just dealing with that one sentence or paragraph, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. So, to restate, the motion would be to leave the first sentence as originally written.
I'll second that.
Right. Okay.
Right. All in favor, so we saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same?
No?
No.
Right, ayes have it.
Now the whole thing.
Now, motion to accept the motion of the risk management policy, all in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Very good, thank you.
Thanks for doing it that way.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Appointments to board and commission policy, the motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners revised appointments to boards and commission policy for the first and second readings.
So moved.
Support?
Motion made and supported. Discussion.
Are you gonna present or straight ask my
I think
questions?
Regina can help you on some of
that
this
now?
language.
Okay.
We'll pull it up on the screen.
Hold on, hold it up.
Yes, sir.
So in 4A, notice of open positions, we had that discussion in Mr. Lyman. The discussion was, do we maintain the current policy of just 4 months ahead of the appointment date, we list the open vacancy, right? And here it seems like we're doing something different. It seems like every January, every open position is live, and people can apply for December 31 on January 2. And maybe I'm not reading that right.
It's listed as, so it'll be listed on the county website each January. So I took your request to kind of, I think you had suggested twice, and I met with the communications department. Oh, go on.
So my suggestion was to keep the existing policy of 4 months before the appointment needs to be made, we list it as a live vacancy. And then on top of that, 5 months before that point, we just tell the public, these are openings that will happen within, the next 5 months.
Sure.
But this policy seems to be saying, on January 2, every opening that we have for the calendar year is live. You can apply on January 2 for a vacancy from December 31. And maybe I'm just reading that wrong.
Well, I took it to mean there'll be the upcoming vacancies for the year will be listed in January, so people can see ahead of time.
Okay.
We didn't think that after we discussed it internally, we thought that if we just did it in January, it would also capture the CMH vacancies that occur in April.
3 months instead of 4 months.
Yeah, so we would just do that in January as a one-time report. The communications team can upload that to the website for us, and that piece seemed to cover your request and something that we're capable of doing internally.
Okay.
I took this to mean that in September, all of the postings will be posted, so that's when people could start applying.
So you have one list of openings throughout the calendar year,
Correct.
and we still maintain the live aspect of it.
In September.
And so when would people be able to apply for CMH? In December 1 or January 1?
It's a good question.
Because now we're limiting the ability of folks to apply within that 4-month window, and bring it down to 3 months.
Yeah, but I hadn't considered that for applying with CMH. So that could certainly be an addition if you would like to include when the
I just
CMH
want to make
seats
sure
will be
that
posted.
we're not leaving CMH off the table,
Yep.
because every other vacancy, we're giving folks 4 months. And, just make sure that CMH has that same 4 months. I thought 9 months, but if you want to do all 12 months, that's fine too.
Yeah.
I just don't want to
We thought
lose
that would just be.
that same runway for CMH that we have for every
Yeah,
other position.
and we didn't specifically call out CMH prior to this either,
Right.
but I think that would be a good addition if you wanted
Right,
to
okay.
suggest that for January or something.
Okay, so normally, we would see CMH vacancies go live on December 1, right? According to the old policy.
check.
Okay.
I don't know.
I just want to
if
make sure
we
that
listed
if every other commission is going live September 1 for December 31, CMH is live December 1 for the March 31.
Sure.
Okay. And the second one is, and I don't think we discussed this either on C, the Board of Commissioners assigns the task of reviewing the applications to the administrator or their designee and appointment alignment. And in my notes, I don't show us talking about assigning the task of reviewing applications to administrator or their designee. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't remember that being part of the discussion.
It might not have been part of the discussion, but I do think it makes sense because before it comes to us for our interviews, the administrator or the designee, sometimes that's the deputy administrator, for example, in our past history, does have that task of making sure that we are getting the applications and so I think it makes sense.
Assisting the process.
Yes, yes.
And if I can speak to the process a little further. So when an application comes into the portal, we actually have what we would call internally committee managers, kind of those people that oversee and kind of facilitate those committees on your behalf. They actually determine if the applicants meet seat requirements based on the statutes.
Right.
So obviously, as you know, for most seats, there aren't a lot of, requirements. But for those that have the requirements, such as police chief or something like that, they can kind of filter those out for you beforehand, so.
So
That's the designee
to
piece.
Facilitate that process. Okay, fair enough.
More with internal controls.
I had one addition that I would like to add that I don't know that we had at appointment and alignment, but I think it would be appropriate under the notice of open positions where it says the website should also provide general information regarding the normal meeting times of the board, commission, or authority in order that prospective appointees may assess their ability to serve. I would like to add in there they should provide general information such as a description of the seat or board. That has been something that has been really important over the last couple of years, that people understand what that seat or board is that they're applying to. If you have a basic description, that would be very helpful, because sometimes it's not on there. And then they're wondering if they even qualify, and that takes a lot more communication that I don't think is necessary if the information was actually shared on the website.
So for example, with the Brownfield Authority, it would give a description of what the Brownfield Authority does, and therefore what the
Yes, the
appointees
website
would
should
use.
definitely have a general description of what the board does. An additional caveat, which would be different, could be that there is, whenever seat is posted, there should be a general description of what meets the qualifications. If there is a qualification, what does that mean? They should be able to find out if they actually qualify.
Before they apply. It's kind of the idea.
And that might actually help reduce some staff time.
Yes.
I don't disagree with you, certainly. I think it's more of us taking a look at that internally to see what we're capable of doing with the website. I do know that the committee descriptions are listed. If you kind of go to that board's page, you can learn more about the boards. You can see the bylaws, which do, or statutes, obviously, that do give some description on the seats. Obviously, that's a lot of homework for the applicant. But I certainly don't want to give you any necessary false hope that we can add these nice descriptions either. So it's tricky.
I think you just hit on something really great. I think if the bylaws are kept on there, which they were not when I came in as chair of talent recruitment, and that has been a great addition over the last 2 years. So if we could have that in our policy stating that we'll keep those bylaws on there, I think people can find out if they're qualified by looking at those.
that, yeah, and up-to-date bylaws, which is something we've been working on. Yeah.
Now you're pushing it.
Now
you're pushing it.
I like that,
Probably
but-
would say up to date just because of yes, but bylaws should be
Yeah.
addressed, I think, in this policy. So, anyway, so that last sentence, I would just say, the website should also provide general information regarding the description of the board and committee, any relevant bylaws, and the normal meeting times of the board, commissioner, authority, in order that prospective appointees may assess their ability to serve.
I think that does it. I like that.
Are you making a motion to add that?
I am making a motion to add that.
Ooh, I'll second it.
Thanks.
Can you repeat that motion to Rachel? Who you got,
Sure.
Rachel?
The
Most of it.
website should also provide general information regarding,
It's a great accent.
Thank
Is that a
you.
Jersey thing?
The normal meeting times of the board, commission, or authority, comma, a general description of the board, commissioner, authority, sorry, I did it better the first time. And then includes relevant bylaws in order that prospective appointees may assess their ability to serve. If it needs to be reworded a little bit, that's fine.
Maybe you can wordsmith it by the time we get to the full meeting, but I get the sentiment. Yeah.
Was this an amendment to one of the things, or is this a whole new?
Just an amendment to one sentence under A, under 4A, procedure A, last sentence.
It's on
page 65.
Thank you. Okay. I was trying to find it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm ready to vote on that.
All right. First we'll vote on Commissioner Meadman's motion to add on the end of A. All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All in favor of the motion to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners, provide appointed boards to the Commission of Policy for first reading, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Very good. Thank you. We're going to move to Health and Human Services updates. The Veteran Services Department. Jason. Tinkle, right there. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
You can't see Jason, are you good?
Yeah, I'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah, I just let you know I got a gecko lizard in my pocket. But that's okay, because it's the same pocket as my marijuana gummies, so he'll be chill for a couple hours.
Bring it to work.
All right.
Policy's not in effect.
Yeah. On a serious note, thanks for having me. I'm just really going to promote our resource fair for next week. That's our Super Bowl event that we have. This will be our second annual event. Grand Haven at Central Park Place from 10 to 2 on September 18th. Right now we have about 65 community partners signed up to join us for that day, including local government, state, and the federal VA will be on site to help provide resources and services. Lunch will be provided free of charge, ice cream from Hudsonville Ice Cream. So that's the only reason why I'm going. I think the team can handle it from there, but I'll make sure the ice cream's good. We're really excited to kick this off next week. It's been a very busy summer for us. Gary will tell you, we've been at every fair, every community outreach event all summer. We dedicated quite a few weekends to get out there and talk to veterans in the community about what we do and how we do it. I know it's a little difficult. Page 2 of the report I gave everybody really starts to line out a lot of our data. A lot of our work ethic and what we're doing, we're really starting to capture a lot of good information to move forward. But I will tell you, it's the last couple of months for me has been really kind of amazing for the fact that sometimes progress is hard to see because it's so minute. But I've seen a lot happen in the last couple of months in reference to our department and the grassroots effort across the Ottawa County, and how folks are really starting to wake up and liven up to what we're doing. Commissioner Minema was at one of our coffee events in Coopersville, and she could probably speak to the scope of that. But, we're super proud and excited about the work that we're doing. I'll see you again here in another hour or so for finance for another ask. But one thing I do want to bring to your attention on that report is really our burial allowance. So we've had some discussion about the amounts, but really today I wanted to discuss really how it's being used and the importance of that project. If you look at last year, we only assisted 8 veterans. This year we're well over 30. So there's a couple of parts to that. One is our marketing, our outreach, our community efforts, our conversations with our local funeral directors, engaging and educating. The other portion of that, which is not really a good story to tell, is our aging population of veterans. So when we look at our 11,700 veterans in Ottawa County, roughly about 48% of those are Vietnam era generation veterans. The average age of a Vietnam generation veteran now is about 71. So over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to start losing that generation. And it'll be a big part of our population. And that's one of the reasons why you see an increase in those burial allowance. Out of the 30, roughly about 19 of those are Vietnam era generation. So I will continue to report every quarter, but that number is going to continue to rise as that war generation starts to pass. So it's important to know that's what we're here for, not only at the county level, but we also serve those veterans and surviving families and spouses with federal cemetery benefits. We advocate on their behalf as far as burials in national cemeteries or obtaining any federal funding that they're entitled to. So we'll continue that great work.
Jason, what percentage of the 11,700 vets are Vietnam vets?
Nationally, it's 48%.
Nationally, it's
Yeah, so if we kind of go by that number, yeah, well, that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
So, yep. But hey, the lights got turned off, so I'll be quick and brief and hopefully give you guys some time back to catch up. But any questions, I'll welcome. Resource fair next week. Everybody should come. 2 reasons. 1, most of your constituents will be there. 2, it will really give you an opportunity for myself and my team to highlight what we've been doing, and you'll get to see it at a larger scale. So.
Thank you, Jason. Questions, comments? Thank you for the work you continue to do, and thank you for your staff.
All right. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it.
Very good. All right, next report is from the Lake Shore Nonprofit Alliance Committee spoke, Andrew Spangler, Director of Ottawa County MDHSS, and Corey Tuckner, Lake Shore Nonprofit Director.
Good morning. I'm here as the vice chair of the LNA Spoke Board, and I was here 3 months ago and was talking about some of the efforts that we continue to make with LNA Spoke. Specifically, we had a previous director, as you know, Tracy, who left us in May. Since then, we've been doing a lot of work, and after multiple interviews, we now have an amazing executive director, which many of you already know. So Corey Plackmeyer is our new director and just started yesterday. So we're very excited that he is with us. During that time, though, I do want to thank Linda Milanowski-Westorp, who was our transition director, who did a phenomenal job. She assisted us previously and allowed a lot of continuity for our nonprofits in the community. But we continue to do all that we do normally in the summer related to programming for nonprofits, and continued our spoke work as well with collaboration over these last 3 months, just using multiple hats. We're able to use a lot of us as board members to be able to provide our hat from what we do professionally and as a board, myself included, continue to participate in things like the Community Health Needs Assessment and the CHIP, Project Home, and many other initiatives in the community. So with that being said, just very excited to bring Corey on board. And I know he's already slated to be on the agenda in December to provide some updates on what he's been doing over the next 90 days, but wanted to just invite him and welcome him as well. So.
I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you to the county for your support of LNA and Spoke. Thrilled to be in this role, thrilled to partner with you. I know several of you already. Look forward to getting to know you better. Those of you that I don't know yet, I really do look forward to getting to know you, working with you. I come to LNA from Movement West Michigan, which was working to coordinate churches and faith-based efforts across the community. What that means is that I bring this heart for collaboration, a heart for impact, and a heart to see us do more together. But more importantly, it means that I was a member of LNA and I experienced firsthand the importance of what LNA does for our nonprofit sector, for the ways that it enabled me as a fresh ED to figure out what I was doing when I had no idea, to forge the connections that really allowed us to do better collaboration, to put us at the tables where we were able to have even greater impact. So as Kendra said, I'm on day 2, but by December I really do look forward to giving you a much more detailed update of the work that we're doing, the impact that we're having, and why it's so critical for the health of the nonprofit sector in Ottawa County and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's good to have you here today. I just want to have a very brief upfront conversation with you so that on your second day in the next 90 days, you have an opportunity to reflect on just something that I'm going to share. So DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, has been a topic of concern for this board in our ongoing partnership with the Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance and Community Spoke. In fact, our board majority decided to vote in continued funding this year with the understanding that you were making internal changes. And one of those changes could perhaps be you here today. Currently on your website, if you're not aware yet, it does mention that a major component of LNA's commitment to nonprofit advocacy is supporting efforts in Michigan Nonprofit Association. This includes supporting their work by being a member and promoting membership with M&A to other Ottawa County nonprofits, and as a collaborative partner with M&A on efforts that advance the nonprofit sector. We were told by your organization prior to your hire that you would be cleaning up your website to reflect the values we desire to be promoted through Ottawa County, which includes the elimination of infusing DEI into nonprofits. So as the recently hired new executive director, I'm wondering what your current position is on this, and I would love to either hear from you today or in the next 90 days as you have an opportunity to reflect and then sharing back to the board. I wanted to be very upfront and share with you some of the concerns and the votes that we took with that understanding.
Absolutely, and yes, as you recognize on day 2, there are certainly a lot of the specific fine-tuned details that I'm still learning. Was certainly aware that that commitment is part of the organization's commitment to the county and to our partnership with the county. So by all means, it is my intention to honor those commitments. It is, and the specific language that you reference, full transparency, I have not yet been onboarded to the point where I have learned of our relationship to MNA and what that means and what all is entailed in that relationship. I believe that is either this afternoon or tomorrow that we begin that conversation. So on the specifics, I can't speak in more detail on that at this point, other than to say that I know that it is an ongoing conversation within the board to ensure that we have alignment with the county while we continue to support the efforts of nonprofits across our sector and making sure that that we are serving and supporting the nonprofits that serve a whole variety of situations, many of which I am only now beginning to get to know the situations that they serve, the people who they are, their organizations, and our goal is to support and strengthen their ability to achieve their missions by working together. And so certainly that means that there are things that we are discerning and determining how we best do that, and I look forward to figuring out what that looks like in the next 90 days.
I appreciate that. We'll look forward to hearing back from you, and congrats on your day 2.
Thank you.
Jacob. Corey, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate you on coming to LNA. I followed your progress with Movement West Michigan. I know you leaving is going to be a hard loss for them. They're working to adjust to that right now. But I just wanted to compliment how you leveraged technology with Movement West Michigan to identify need and identify who could fulfill those needs in West Michigan in such an efficient manner. It's very clear, concise, and very effective. So I love your use of technology. You're both high tech and high touch. That's your personality. So I appreciate how you're able to collaborate and pull people together you're a unifying force all by yourself. So you connected with Kendra is going to be something exciting to watch. So excited to see you.
Thank you very much. Yes, as those of you who don't know me yet, you will find I am somebody who is driven by data. I love to dig in and figure out what does the data say. So grateful for the support of the nonprofit community assessment. Can't wait to dig into that first draft of the information and release that later. It's unique really even in the country that we have such information. And then to pair that with the technological tools that we have available today to support connection, to support impact, I truly think we have the sky's the limit ahead of how we can strengthen our entire sector. So I very much look forward to connecting data, relationship, and technology together to make an impact.
Well, Kendra and Corey, thank you so much for the closing up forward to any more from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our services updates. Now we move on to committee reports from the prosecuting office 2024 annual board. Sarah Michalski, prosecuting attorney. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. It is still. Now this is very strange that we don't have the PowerPoint available here, but I have a tiny bit of my battery power left.
We can probably, that PowerPoint we could put, that would be on.
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet, yeah.
That's in the packet now, so yes, correct.
And everybody has a copy of it.
Yes.
All right. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. It's my privilege to be here to present the 2024 annual report for the Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office. Thank you. Without having the PowerPoint right here, it makes it a little bit less interesting, so some of my jokes aren't going to be very funny. But the mission statement of the Prosecutor's Office has substantially remained the same throughout the decades for obvious reason. Our purpose is to serve the community, preserve the quality of life of the citizens in the community here in Ottawa County, to promote lawful conduct. I know there was a lot of conversations about that with different committees and policies you've been speaking about today, and whenever I hear the word illegal or lawful, my ears just peak up. That's just kind of nature of the beast. So we want to promote that lawful conduct, and then also to enhance the safety and the security of our citizens here in Ottawa County. So we try to work with our groups throughout the county to make sure that we're doing the best we can for any type of prevention that we can do. We also want to make sure that we're educating our community on what the right things to be doing, what the legal context, et cetera, is to be doing. Now, I say that, and I just want to do this little caveat that we are not private attorneys. We get lots of people who contact our office asking for legal advice, and because we are county employees and elected official, we can't provide that kind of personal service where people call and say, would this be legal? Would this not be legal? That's kind of stepping outside of our boundaries a bit here. Moving on to that, the responsibilities of a prosecutor's office. I thought it was really great that this was kind of put into this small little section, but I would say that this just kind of tips the iceberg here on what the roles and the responsibilities of a prosecutor is. Being this is my first year as the elected, I'm reporting on last year's when I wasn't the elected, I knew there were a lot of responsibilities that the prosecutor's office has, but I really had no clue to the extent of all the different roles that are mandated by the statutes and by state as to what it is that we do. But in a little nutshell, we're responsible for criminal prosecution. I would hope that's not a surprise to any of you. So any type of a state violation of law that occurs here within the County of Ottawa, we are responsible for that criminal prosecution. That includes both adult and juvenile matters. Specialty services. We obviously can't just prosecute in a bubble. We need to make sure that we're involved in our community and the partners that we work with in order to successfully prosecute crime here in Ottawa County. These include having a family unit within our department, a domestic violence unit, victims' rights unit, an appellate law unit, and obviously we're involved in law enforcement training to the extent that our partners and I are able to figure all that out. We're doing a really great job in partnering with our law enforcement agencies. Community leadership. I think it's a very important role of the prosecuting attorney and our staff that we are involved in our community, and we are working very hard to make sure that we're serving on multiple boards. Some of them are required by statute. For instance, the Children's Advocacy Center, the Violence Prevention Alliance, domestics, and different community corrections boards. So we're on a lot of different boards mandated by statute just to try to keep that community partnership, that transparency of what we're doing and how we're involving the community, and that is another big part of what we do. This is where there's cute pictures of our office locations that nobody can see right now. So we have 2 offices. We have for quite some time now had these 2 offices. So the county seat, as you know, is actually in Grand Haven, which is the very northern part of our county. And then we have another office that's in our Holland city, which is very south in our county. So you can understand the dynamics that make it kind of tricky to have half of our staff in one part of the county and half in another county. I'll also add the different issues that we have with having courthouses here at Fillmore, and we have some in Hudsonville. So we have a lot of traveling. We have to spend a lot of, unfortunately, time making sure that our staff can be where they need to be there for victims and to cover our prosecution of cases. So we still have those 2 different offices. We tried, this is kind of old news, but we tried to get into the Family Justice Center. We have one small space, but that's how we were able to do. This is where you see a picture of somebody who's not me. This is Lee Fisher. He obviously was the prosecutor back in 2024, so want to make sure that you knew our leadership team back last year involved the prosecutor Lee Fisher. He served for 1 term after Ron France served for more than 4 years. I think it was closer to 40. Yeah, 7.5 terms.
Yep.
Wow. So yeah, I was Lee's chief assistant for those 4-year terms, for that 1 term of 4 years. Our current office managers are Mallory Jewell, she's our office manager here and she supports our Holland office, and Elizabeth Cookenmeister, she's our office manager that supports our Grand Haven office and staff. Besides the 4 of us that back last year made up our management team, it's changed just a tiny bit this year. We are composed of 16 additional assistant prosecutors. So including the prosecutor and the chief, we have a total of 18 attorneys to cover the entire county, including some of those specialized divisions that by statute we're required to cover, such as the family court. We have 12 legal assistants that cover different levels and different versions and variations of our courts. And then we have 4 IT specialists that handle our digital evidence. That's really become a focus of our 2025 annual report, which I'll report to you next year. But last year we were just really trying to work on being prepared for what was going to happen this year. I could probably talk for about an hour on that, but that's not relevant until next year. We also have 7 victim rights advocates that are involved for our victims' rights unit. We were able to increase that a little bit due to the need in Ottawa County, so we were really pleased for that. One of our advocates is, I think, the lowest paid county employee. That would be Q, who you may have heard snoring throughout the different meeting. Once the lights kind of went down, he went out for the count. So Q is our canine advocate dog. I think we've got a time where I can speak about that. The next slide involves some of our new faces to our office, so I won't really dwell on that, but we had a lot of transitions in our office last year. We had at least 3 different retirements, including our prosecutor, and we were able to really do some great promotions within our office. So when we were getting those IT digital evidence legal assistants that help us now with all the new technology that we have, we were able to promote from within and be able to give our staff an opportunity to look into new things that they could do to expand their knowledge of our office. So we were really proud to do that. That, however, brought challenges of having to hire people to replace in their positions. So we spent a lot of time doing interviews last year, and we spent a lot of careful consideration. Really, we want to make sure that people who are in our office and employed by our office have a passion for what we do. And I'm extremely proud to say that I believe that we were very successful in that. So anyway, there's some really beautiful faces on there that you can take a look at. A couple of the people that we were able to hire also are Spanish speaking, which is a huge benefit to our office as well. So we were grateful to see that. Changes and challenges. Like I mentioned, we had a couple of retirements. Obviously, Lee Fisher retired as prosecutor. One of our office managers, Amy Chittister, she was our Holland office manager. She retired in the middle of the year, and we replaced and hired Mallory, who was an internal candidate. So she was has been with our office for a very long time as well. So we were happy to promote that. And then obviously the Family Justice Center opening up. provided us with some new challenges of locations, and adding a judge made it so that we had more dockets we had to cover. So a lot of challenges we faced with that. Digital evidence, yeah, that's going to be a big thing for me to talk about next year, so we'll just kind of move on from that one. We got new digital evidence systems as a result, and just trying to navigate through all those new systems. We have a unique situation being the prosecutor's office, that we're kind of the center of the wheel spoke, so to speak. So we get information from 7 different police departments that all handle them in different ways. None of them have the same contracts. We have to adapt to all those and then figure out a way to get them out to the court systems and out to defense attorneys, which are the public defender's office, retained attorneys from across the state or local, wherever it might be. So being able to get that information out is also very unique as a challenge to us. So just trying to navigate through all that's been quite tricky, and we're still dealing with that. It says between retirements, promotions, and positions, we had about 24 different staffing changes in 2024. So we're hoping not to have that many this year. So far, we're doing pretty good. Criminal caseload overview. You can see that our amount of felonies was 1,861. Now, these are authorized charges. So that decreased by 0.8%. So no real big change between the years there. 5,020 misdemeanors, decreased about 10%. And I can explain part of that has probably to do with the amount of juvenile delinquency cases that we've had, still adjusting from that age change in 2021 from the increasing the age from 17 to 18, which results in the juvenile cases increasing a slight bit, about 5.9% at 1,041 cases, making the total cases just shy of 8,000 cases in 2024 that were authorized. Significant crime trends, people always like to kind of hear about this a little bit. What we noticed was that some of the more major crimes were increased. Now keep in mind when you see these numbers, say there's 2 or 3 arson cases that occurred in 2023, if we have a couple more, it's going to show a substantial percentage increase. So just a couple of cases can really change some of those. But one that's really notable and obviously concerning is the criminal sexual conduct is up 41%. Again, these aren't a substantial amount of cases that we have here in Ottawa, so if you see that number go up, it doesn't mean that we have hundreds of more cases, et cetera. It just means percentage-wise where we're at, and we can talk about that if anyone has any questions. There's where you see that arson up 75%. It doesn't mean that we have hundreds of arson cases. The statistics are in there. I think it moved from like 3 to 5 or something along those lines. Felony drunk driving is up. So felony drunk driving means anything that's involving a 3rd drunk driving case or more. That went up a little bit, only about 5%. Breaking and entering, those types of home invasion situations is up just a little bit, over 4%. Notable decreases, though, this is a huge one that's really important to me, is weapons offenses. It's a small percentage, but I really want to cling to that as much as we can. We work very hard with our law enforcement to try to keep our weapons, illegal, unlawful weapons, out of here in Ottawa County. Drug offenses are down a little bit. I think that our undercover enforcement teams have been working really well with our office, and we're doing some great things. Property crimes are down a little bit. Robberies down significantly. Extraditions, those are down as well. That's where we're bringing people back to make sure that we fulfill our prosecutions. The next slide involves domestic violence. Those cases have remained fairly the same, but you can see that number is down a little bit. We've had a lot of focus with the Violence Prevention Alliance, with our teamwork throughout the community, being able to have our advocates become more educated when it comes to domestic violence. We've been able to actually expand our office to have 2 domestic violence focused advocates as opposed to just the one that we've had in the past, but that change was just made this year. But it's really kind of opened up our awareness of domestic violence, our training, our being able to help and advocate for victims and provide those services. So that's down a little bit, that's a good thing. Oh, post-conviction workload. This is my least favorite topic to talk about because it has to do with appellate work. I don't like doing appellate work very much. It's a little bit less in my bandwagon. However, I'm very blessed to have amazing people that do appellate work very well in my office. The issue that we're facing now is, I could say many reasons why I believe that it's become more of a challenge for the prosecutors these days throughout the states, but we're facing a lot of challenges from our state courts and our higher courts that really are, I welcome the opportunity to make sure that we're doing our jobs correctly. However, sometimes I feel like we're being asked to go above and beyond and that the focus needs to be closer on our victims and how victims need to be handled. But I could talk about that later. As a result, we are having a significant increase in our post-conviction workload. So that means our appellates. So if we have a case that gets appealed and it goes up to a higher court, we are responsible for handling those. Like for instance, the public defender's office does not do those. We do, and that caseload has increased by 95.7%. So that's been a significant times increase on our staff. Parole notices, we try to inform our victims that if the offender is going to be paroled or is looking for possible parole status, if they want to appear there, if they need support or anything along those lines, that's substantially increased as well. So trying to navigate through how we're going to make sure that that information is provided to them and give the services that we can, even after conviction, after sentencing, when we've kind of moved on to our other cases as best as we can, is something we want to prioritize and make sure that we're still here throughout the pendency of any type of appeal or parole process. Abuse and neglect cases are down about 25%. There's been a huge increase in prevention services. I was talking with some of our attorneys that are assigned to this division, kind of what are they looking at here with that decrease. I think there's a huge focus on trying to, and again, this is more with services that are provided to our communities and our families, more focusing on these significant cases involving substance abuse, sexual abuse, or severe physical abuse, and perhaps maybe not involving so many things as, you know, a dirty home or things along those lines, that perhaps until we get involved as prosecutors, maybe provide some services that might help those families out prior to involving us. So that's kind of what we were looking into with that decrease. We had several homicides in 2024. It's always kind of hard for me to keep track of which ones actually happened in 2024 versus ones that we're dealing with now or maybe have resolved now. So there's a couple examples of that. I don't necessarily have to go through all of them. The good news is almost all of these, except for one of them, is still pending trial back. I think the trial's pending this December. But we've gotten some really great convictions. I'm very proud of our staff and the hard work that they've put into these. Gotten some really good justice that's been served. Our Crime Victims' Rights Services, they served in 818 felony cases, 1,200 misdemeanor cases, just shy of 500 juvenile cases. Total contacts with victims of crime here in Ottawa County was about 28,412. It's really, really light in this one. 28,412 total victims that we were able to serve here in Ottawa County last year. So keep in mind, when it involves our Crime Victims Services, that involves statutory cases that we're required to provide those services for. If we could provide them for everybody that wasn't required by statute, we would love to do so. But as you can see, with having technically 5 full-time advocates, that's a huge number for them to have to cover and really give them the heart and the love that they need to have there and support them. Talk a little bit about that victim communication. I think it's important. We've increased our services a little bit to provide some cell phones, some work phones to our advocates so they can provide some texting in their services, which I think a lot of people are finding to be helpful. You know, just a real quick text that says, when's my court date? How do I handle this? Do I need to be here? Things like that make it a lot easier for them to be in contact. So that's been a very nice, helpful service that we've provided. We try to make it so they can make it to as many court cases as they can. But again, when we've got our courts spread out all throughout the county, trying to make sure that everybody's able to be where they can be. I mean, one hearing that may only take 5-10 minutes can take up at least 2-3 hours of their time, just kind of wading through the dockets and sitting there and supporting victims. So that's definitely a challenge. Well, this is the Q part where I talk about Q. Q is our canine advocate. He is assigned to our handler, Jake Jennison, who's my current chief assistant. He's been assigned to the Children's Advocacy Center for several years, more so than we've ever had a prosecutor actually stay there, because it's a significant challenge for one individual to handle for so long. So we're working through having a couple additional hires that we've had this year that have been really wonderful to work with our CAC, but Q's there all the time. So he was able to serve 100+ child victims and help them through the cases. Interesting that we were here on the day that you kind of talked about the dogs in the building. He is fully insured. So whenever you have those situations that involve the dog bites or anything like that, which, my gosh, he'd have to sit up long enough in order to do that, he would be fully insured. So he's been fantastic. He truly has been. And if anybody comes into our office, I've had some of our elderly victims that I'm just like, hey, Jake, can I borrow you for a minute? So it really does help. So he kind of adds some joy to our office, definitely drools a lot. Other than that, he's been a huge, huge help and assistant. Looking ahead, well, I guess the next slide just shows a picture of me. So I've been working very hard to maintain all the wonderful things that Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office has been able to provide for Ottawa County and try to adjust to all the new things that the world is providing us and the new challenges that we have. My new chief assistant, like I said, was our prior senior attorney, Jake Jettison. Mallory and Elizabeth are our office managers that still here and help us more than I could ever imagine. Obviously, in-car cameras and body cams for the Sheriff's Department has really rocked our world this year, but I think we're adjusting here pretty well. We have our new case management system that I won't even say the word because it's probably gonna entice us all to start rocking in the corner. It's been a lot of work, but it's Carpel. We waited a few years to save the county about $400,000 so we could do it under the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan contract. They put us on the bottom of the list, of course, but we're due to go live here in December of 2005, and I can't wait to report to you next year that it went great. So we're working on that. We're working really hard, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah?
Sarah, thanks for being here today. I'm just on page 19 of your presentation in our book, which is page 85 of the packet. I'm looking at the annual expenses between 2023 and 24, and I'm just putting my finance hat on for a minute and trying to understand. You know, we're going, basically, your department's expenses have gone up about $800,000, just shy. And I was wondering, what do you attribute that to? Because it seems like crime is on the decrease. Thank you, you know, and thank you to the sheriff for the work that your department's doing as well. But where do you attribute that $800,000 excess expense coming from?
Sure. Technology is going to be a huge part of it. And being able to tell you exactly how we did, you know, the budgeted amount in 2023 versus 2024, I'm not going to be able to give you specifics. I do know that we've had some significant challenges on some big cases. We've had to come to the board to get some expert fees covered. Unfortunately, I think you're going to be hearing from us again on that here pretty quick. But technology, it's going to come down to that. So in order to adjust to body cams and dash cams, we've had to hire more staff. So we have 4 IT technical digital evidence legal assistants that we've never had to have before. So that's a big part of it. Making sure they have the technology that they need to download all that data in a reasonable amount of time. I would still say that that's a challenge. And being able to get all that where it needs to be. The different management systems that we've had to have in order to handle all that, that's been pretty substantial. We also were able to add another victim advocate. We kind of merged our 5th IT specialist, and we had a domestic violence prevention advocate that we were kind of able to merge into adding 1 new advocate. So not a whole lot of cost there, but I would say that in general, that really has a lot to do with just the technology that we've had to adjust to.
With the retirings of some of the senior folks that were in your group, are you seeing some cost savings in personnel as you're bringing in maybe junior people to backfill those positions?
We are very proud to be able to serve Ottawa County with the number of prosecutors that we have because of the experience that we're able to bring in. So you're not going to find a whole lot of newbies at our office. So for instance, one of the prosecutors that we just hired this year had 15 plus years as a prosecutor in another county, as well as working at a CAC. And so that experience was exactly what we were looking for. So I wouldn't say that necessarily we're replacing somebody with 30, 20 years of experience with somebody with no experience. We've really been able to help with that. But yeah, I mean, that has happened. One of the people that we hired recently was somebody who started more at an entry level. But we're really looking for the experience because we would need a lot more prosecutors if we didn't have the prosecutors with the experience that they have.
So the $800,000 increase, do you think that's the new norm of, because of the new technology that's implemented, that we're gonna have to sustain that for the foreseeable future? This is not a one-time expense, this is something that you're seeing for 2025 as well, being consistent?
Well, I think that I can speak that Karen can say I did not ask for any more money this year, so that was really good. But unfortunately, I would like to say that I'm hoping it stays the same, but with rumors that the Public Defender's Office is going to start handling juvenile cases, which they've never handled in the past, we're going to need more prosecutors. This rumor that our county needs 3 more judges, that's going to just absolutely change everything for us. So we, unfortunately, are probably going to have to be increasing that as a result of needing more staff. So hopefully we're able to hire amazing quality people that can cover more than most. But yeah, I would say with where we're at, we can't get rid of any of our employees that we need to handle the technology, and I think that's only going to cost more as technologies continue to improve. But we're really working on it, and we try to save as much money as we can.
I know that's your heart, so thanks for clarifying for me.
Yeah, thanks.
Morning.
Good.
Thanks for being here and your presentation, or afternoon, almost afternoon, right? I might have missed it when I stepped out, so I apologize if I did miss it, but can you just touch on the personal protection order violations and the changes that took place here over this last year as it regards to your legal authority? I would love to hear a little bit on that, and then I might just have a follow-up question.
Sure, absolutely. So Lee Fisher last year put a lot of effort and research into the whole, what statutorily is our office required to do when it comes to personal protection orders and violations. What I remembered from way back when is we didn't get involved until there was a violation. And that's how the statute allows us, and that's what it requires us as a prosecutor's office to do. There came a time when we were realizing that there were a lot of PPOs that were being authorized and maybe violations that were coming about that weren't necessarily very strong. So we wanted to get involved in that process a little bit. And I don't remember exactly when that was, but that was several years ago. And we were able to kind of handle that in a decent amount of time. It has become substantially more of a time constraint to go through every single personal protection order violation that comes across our desk. It was becoming very difficult. There was some issues with who actually was signing as a petitioner, because as a county prosecutor, we can't be a petitioner and represent somebody who is a petitioner of a personal protection order, so they are not our clients. So it became very difficult where they were being confused as to who was their legal representation. So we just found a lot of that confusion, kind of how we navigate through all that. And obviously, Mr. Fisher did a lot of research into what our statutory requirements were for PPOs. And what he found was our statutory obligations are to facilitate and handle any type of violation once it has been acknowledged by the court. So that's the change that we made. So instead of being the ones who actually pursue the violations and authorize the violations on behalf of a petitioner, that's not us, we decided that what we're going to do is follow the statute, and we're going to be there to facilitate, similarly to we do like a probation violation. We don't bring about the probation violations, but we're there to support and to facilitate.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess in layman's terms, how does the change affect an everyday person who does have a violation complaint? Currently it was handled one way. Is there a longer time where they're needing to be for that issue to be addressed? Are there more safety issues? Like, I'm just wondering, and you have one avenue, right, from your standpoint. There's other avenues that someone else might speak into, but I don't know if you could, is there any
I think the difference was we never authorized personal protection orders. That always went directly to the court. So we were never part of the approval of a PPO or the termination of a PPO. So our office was never involved in that. That's always been with the courts directly. It was only a change with regards to a violation of that PPO. So before it came to our office, so similar to a warrant request, we'd have to wait for that paperwork, get the information, and have that time to be able to review it, get it to the court, get it where it needs to be, and get that set for a court date. In my opinion, it's more streamlined now because those violations go directly to the court who authorized the PPO. And then they can make that decision as to whether or not they approve that violation. Then we show up for that hearing. At that initial hearing, we're just getting involved because we're not of record yet. That's our issue. And even when we were doing the violations, we still weren't of record yet. So until we are an attorney of record on behalf of the state, then we can actually start getting the reports. So now we don't directly get those police reports. So it does take us a little bit longer to get those police reports, but it's more streamlined to the court who can better handle if there's something immediately that needs to get done. But perhaps the hearing might get delayed another week for us to get an opportunity to actually get the police report and be able to represent them at a formal hearing.
I appreciate your response, so
Sure.
thank you very much.
Yes. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Us as well. This time we'll have our report, 2024 annual report from Sheriff Eric DeBoer.
I take it, given the current electricity, we don't have microphones, is that correct?
We do.
Okay, all right, we'll move that out of the way so I can have them. Just before we get started, Consumers is on site, and we believe that we should have power on maybe before the end of the next meeting. But that's based on Consumers power, so you never can tell. So it's still good morning. So good morning, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. It's my honor to present the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office 2024 Annual Report. This report represents the final year of service under my predecessor, Sheriff Steve Kempker, and I want to recognize Sheriff Kempker's leadership, which left a strong foundation that our staff continues to build on. Earlier this morning, you were sent a link to the new web-based annual report format. This format is now live on our website as well. It should make it easier for to navigate and allow our partners to quickly find the information they need without having to print lengthy documents. So that should be in your inbox. I sent it at about 9 o'clock this morning. The central theme of this report is the value of our partnerships. Through contracts with townships, cities, and schools, we provide services that are tailored locally while remaining consistent countywide. These agreements reflect not only our funding, but also trust and collaboration, and they remain essential to how we deliver law enforcement across Ottawa County. As you review the statistics in this report, I urge you to interpret them carefully. Crime numbers will always rise and fall within normal fluctuations, but what truly matters is identifying which ones lie outside that norm. But it's also important to consider the reasons behind some of these changes in the context of our operations. For example, as you heard previously, weapons complaints and also OWI complaints, I'll clarify, non-felony OWI complaints, because I don't want to contradict Sarah, show significant declines. And while that may appear positive, I find it difficult to believe that those crimes are occurring less frequently. I don't think there are any fewer drunk drivers on the road, and I don't think there are fewer guns out on the street. Instead, these decreases may reflect the impact of understaffing at the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office, with fewer deputies available to detect and respond to these. Again, every weapons complaint isn't a domestic that we would go to that was used, where a weapon was used. Some of these are being found on traffic complaints or traffic stops. While this is why staffing remains one of our most critical priorities. Beyond the statistics, our investigative team handled numerous major cases in 2024 that demonstrate both the complexity of crime in Ottawa County and the dedication of our staff. In January, detectives investigated a homicide in Zealand Township where a 63-year-old woman was killed. The suspect then fled to Las Vegas, where he was later apprehended and extradited back to Michigan to face charges. In May, a Robinson Township man shot his girlfriend, only to be stopped by their 17-year-old son, who intervened right before his final shot was taken to protect his mother. The suspect is awaiting sentencing on serious charges while the victim survived. Also in May, what began as a stolen pontoon boat case uncovered a multi-state theft operation valued at over $600,000. The suspect, based in Indiana, was caught transporting additional stolen boats into Ottawa County and now faces prosecution. In September, a recently released sex offender assaulted a young woman in Olive Township after following her from a park. Thanks to her courage and the quick police response, he was arrested the next day and has since been convicted, receiving a sentence of 25 to 75 years in prison. These examples illustrate why numbers alone cannot tell the full story. Each case represents lives impacted, communities shaken, and the critical role of our deputies and detectives in bringing about justice. Our Corrections Division is a vital part of our agency's work, and in 2024, the Jail Investigative Unit was implemented. It has already submitted 75 reports for in-custody criminal violations. Our Classification Unit processed 869 requests to ensure proper housing and supervision of inmates. And on average, our jail housed 269 individuals each day, and we processed 4,527 bookings over the course of the year. Equally important, though, our facility continues to offer programs that support rehabilitation. Last year, 12 inmates earned their GED, and many more participated in reentry and recovery programs designed to reduce recidivism and prepare them for success after release. In 2024, we offered conditional offers of employment to 69 individuals, and after our rigorous screening process, 84 passed background investigations and 40 were ultimately hired. Even then, not all of these individuals successfully completed our stringent in-house training program. This demonstrates both the challenge and commitment we hold. We are hiring, but we are unwilling to lower our standards. Ottawa County deserves the best, and that remains our benchmark. It is for this reason that I am pleased to announce that last week, for the first time since January 2024, we have closed the posting for Road Patrol Deputy. And while staffing challenges remain across law enforcement, this milestone reflects both our progress in recruitment and the strong interest in serving with the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office. This year also marked the creation of our Professional Standards Division, a step that strengthens accountability, consistency, and long-term planning within the Sheriff's Office. This division is now responsible for hiring, training, policy creation and maintenance, internal investigations, and strategic planning. In the near future, we'll also oversee the process of professional accreditation. By consolidating these critical functions into one division, we are ensuring that our standards remain high, our policies remain current, and our staffs are supported with the training and resources they need to succeed. Accreditation, once achieved, will further demonstrate to the public and to our partners that the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office meets the recognized standards of professionalism and service. In 2024, we rolled out the first phase of our Axon contract by migrating our digital evidence into Axon's system and outfitting patrol deputies with body-worn cameras. This project continued and expanded into 2025 with the addition of in-car cameras for patrol and transport vehicles, as well as body-worn cameras for court services and Marine Patrol. The Axon project continues to this day as new internal systems are developed and tailored to meet the needs of our agency, ensuring that our deputies have the tools to serve with transparency and accountability. Earlier this year, we released our first 5-year action plan, which was provided to you at a previous date. We are now working to establish processes for evaluating our goals, benchmarking our progress, and using crime statistics more strategically to guide our patrol and investigative initiatives. This will help us maintain the high level of service our residents expect while adapting to the county's growth. In closing, I want to thank our staff for their dedication and professionalism, our community partners for their trust, and this board for your continued support. The 2024 report reflects where we have been, and our action plan sets the course for where we are going. An agency that is strong, accountable, and prepared for the challenges ahead. I invite you all, after you have had time to review the report in detail, to reach out to me directly with questions or feedback, and I look forward to having those conversations with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Guess we have time to read his report, but we'll get back. Thank you.
Wonderful.
I don't think there's no questions here. Oh, there is, John.
Sure. You guys are great. The county is well served under your leadership, so thank you for that. So I know that you've reorganized your community action with less, from I think 7 districts with sheriffs, with sergeants. Now you go into a regional of 3 with a lieutenant. And when we look at the budget on that, county's going to be sharing some costs with the townships for a while, but then in 2 years, I think, the cost is totally on the county, if I understood that right.
That's correct.
So what do you think that impact's going to be? What are we looking at that we should be anticipating in a year or two? Or
as far as operations go, or monetarily?
Monetarily.
So ultimately, if everything goes as we planned, this first year, starting in October, the county would be on the hook for a 1 lieutenant to enable this plan, and then a third of the 7 current sergeants that are contracted out. Now, historically, and I think it's mentioned in that white paper I sent you guys earlier, the running theory behind law enforcement in Ottawa County throughout both county and city agencies and local units of government, dating back to the late 90s, was that it's each individual municipality's responsibility to pay for law enforcement services on the ground, the policing, and it's the county's responsibility for the administration of that policing. So to me, that means supervision, sergeants, as well as detectives, records, all the way up to the sheriff. And so what this does is kind of realigns us to that, because ultimately a lot of these sergeants' positions were taken over during these contracts with agencies such as Coopersville, Hudsonville, Spring Lake, Ferrysburg, where when they were having their police department taken over, they wanted a chief figure. And so they were given a sergeant at that time. But at this time, it's causing some significant issues with supervision, and it's an inefficient use of resources. So ultimately, all we're doing is realigning what we had kind of talked about back in the 90s to say the county's responsibility for that supervision. And honestly, we are seeing this kind of play out, which I'll be in front of you in the next meeting. One of the townships that we're taking the sergeant from has said, we'd like you to take it from us now because we needed one to kind of go away for a couple years. And we want to reinvest that money on a deputy so that they can be responsible for their township policing. Allendale Township says, we need more call-taking cars. If we're going to save us this money, we want to reinvest it in law enforcement. And so they're asking for another deputy, which I'll be in front of you in a matter of minutes, I'm sure, to request in the next meeting. So ultimately, in that first year, we'll pay for 1/3 of 6 of these sergeants. In the second year, the county will pay for 2/3, and ultimately we'll take over supervision so that there aren't any sergeants that are funded by any other source other than the county. What this will do for us is, under this new layout, is allow our lieutenants to be out in the districts instead of being out at headquarters and become that go-to person for all our contracts, as well as the townships and cities that we don't contract with, that they know that that's the person they can go to. That person can be involved in that community, set up these community initiatives that we've been running out of headquarters, and be a little bit more directed and deliberate about those programs, and kind of reintroduce that way that we used to do things kind of before COVID, when we stopped doing a lot of these programs. Two things happened in COVID. Obviously, we weren't doing a lot of things where we got together as groups. We also went through a giant retirement push because of everybody coming up on the 25 years since the Clinton cops grants. So we absolutely turned over during that time. What that meant was a bunch of kids that have only been here for a couple years weren't here when we were going to all these events and doing that, and we've kind of lost a little bit of our identity, and all of us old guys are going, hey, remember when we used to do this way? Now, we haven't lost the community, they're still with us, and we do have a lot of these events. You see them on our social media page, but we need to be more deliberate about it and explain to the newer deputies coming up that this is the way we do things. Now, what's nice now is because we've taken these sergeants from each township and we bring them under that lieutenant in that area, that sergeant who does know the way is going to have his 5 to 7 guys with him in that geographical area at the times that they work, which were two of the problems we used to have, and he can say, come on guys, we're doing this, and become that mentor to bring back the Ottawa way to the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office. So that's kind of the big, that's where you're getting your value. We're in this place where we're straddling being a large, complicated police organization and trying to keep the feel of that small town police where everybody knows everybody, and you can go to them not just because you're getting a ticket or we're getting out and we're talking to people, and we're trying to straddle that. And so that's a leadership goal, is to try and find ways to build that into our system so that we don't ever become too complicated and too big to have those relationships. And so that's what this push is for.
So I applaud that, the initiative, the thought process, the whole bit. I think it's fantastic that you've been able to rethink through this with your deputy and the whole bit. Have you been able to put any type of estimate on the cost?
At the end of 3 years, my general estimate is around $1.5 million.
So we've got to anticipate that in our budget.
Yeah, so when this whole thing started to come up, we sat down with the administrator and with fiscal to say, okay, I'm not going to come to you in October and ask you for $1.5 million. And so this implementation plan we have of pulling over little by little brings us up about $500,000 every year, thereabouts, And that's been built into this model of keeping fiscal aware of that's going to be on the horizon, so you should know. So I'm pretty sure when I sent out your white paper, I also sent out our action plan. There is an implementation plan as well. I don't know if I sent that to you as well because it was kind of in flux at the time because some of it had to do with how much money I needed to not ask for this year. And so I can get that to you as well, but ultimately it comes down to about right around $500,000 every year for the next 3 years.
Thanks.
Jim.
I just want to mention, I recently went to a Cops and Cones event and had a chance to just have conversation with some of the officers that were there, and we talked a little bit about this reorganization, and they were very enthusiastic about it. They feel it's going to help them connect with community better, and a lot of positive response from them about this program, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, it came about me trying to explain how we do things to the new undersheriff, and it kind of became one of those, well, it's kind of complicated. Is there a reason for this? And so when we started talking about fixing it, I guess I underestimated how excited the rank and file would be about it. I was worried that some of the sergeants that currently have a weekday business hours type job that are getting reassigned back to every other weekend, they might be frustrated, that deputies might think, well, now what, I gotta have to have a sergeant with me at all times. And honestly, the sergeants are so excited to be able to mentor and get out of the office and stop doing some of this administrative work that they've been saddled with over the course of time and get back to just teaching up the guys. And the deputies are excited about having someone with them out there to make sure that they don't fail and to help them reach their career goals. That it took off even more than I had expected. So I'm really, really excited about it. And we've been planning it for a long time, and your vote is in 2 weeks, and then we decide, all right, we're done talking about it, now we gotta make it happen. So there's a lot of running around in the front halls trying to make everything work. So, but thank you, appreciate it, Commissioner Barry.
Eric, I recently had a conversation with one of the administrators in District 10, and they showed some enthusiasm for the new plan. One of their concerns was on service level with a more centralized kind of dispatch setup as he perceived it. Just wanted to make sure that the service levels were able to be maintained. Let me pair that with the other side of the coin is they're very happy with some additional funding being freed up so that they can look at better ways for code enforcement locally in their area. And so they're grateful for this whole thing. That was just one of their, they wanted to highlight. So.
Yeah, I think one of the strengths of the program is that it doesn't change where our deputies assigned. So at the deputy level, there are very little changes. I won't say there are none because there are some. In that white paper I showed you, there's currently 6 patrol areas. Some of those, and they haven't been adjusted since the addition of kind of that Grand Haven area car. It used to be 4 quadrants, and then we added that car. It hasn't changed much since then. There will be some changes to that, but we were specific in making sure that none of the service levels at the county change at all. However, the townships are still paying for their deputies, so those deputies are still going to be in those townships. What it will help us do down the road is all of a sudden make all of these areas kind of be apples to apples, and I should be able to evaluate when is it time to go to a township and say, hey, your calls for service are at a position that we believe it's time for you to talk about adding more. Some local units of government are very proactive about that. They say, hey, we've got two of these developments planned. We know we're going to probably need a new deputy soon. When we should probably talk about it. Allendale, like I said, when I went and talked to them, they said, hey, we need this. We've been having some issues during these times, whatever that looks like. Other ones need a nudge, but then I'll have the ability to say, listen, these are some of your comparables. Here's what's going on in your area, and it's allowing that lieutenant to be able to do that. Some of the stuff we're doing in the meantime is getting a little bit more away from anecdotal evidence and more towards actual using numbers, but you've got to be careful because you can make numbers say whatever you want. I could have stood here and said, hey, listen, I've got hardly any drunk drivers compared to last year, but we all know that that's not the case, right? So I want to make sure when I present to anyone, including this board, that I'm giving you clean numbers that what the context is for those numbers, so.
Thank you.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to say I'm looking at your report and it looks beautiful. You guys did a great job on this, and
I love that it's available to the public this way, so good job.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, we have some personnel that spent quite a bit of time doing that move over, but hopefully we'll keep building on it, and we'll make it even, we'll make it more data available even next year, so.
Yeah, and thank you for the org chart. I think that's great.
Thank you for
All
all
right.
your services there.
Thank you, see you guys in a little bit.
All right. Discussion items, we have none. This time is the second opportunity for public comment. Any public comment, please state your name and address. Give me 3 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Rebecca Patrick, Allendale. I wanted to comment on your expense and mileage policy discussion. And it seems to me, just as a member of the public, it feels like we've lost the thread here, that the whole impetus for this thing, at least from my perspective as a member of the public, was the concern that people expressed back in June, the public expressed back in June, about a trip that some commissioners took to Washington, D.C. They wanted to know who approved it, they wanted to know what was covered, they wanted to know who went, and they wanted to know the total cost. And we still don't have that information. And under the proposal, or what seems like the proposal, is we would not have that information going forward. And I heard both Commissioners Eilstra and Commissioner Miedema say that they believe that kind of information should be available, readily available to the public. So I feel like we're talking about doing all this stuff that nobody asked for, and we're not doing the stuff that people did ask for. So that's my first concern. The second concern is I have 2 comments relative to your discussion about what in fact other counties do allow. I did a little bit of research on that, and there are other counties in Michigan that do allow commissioners home to meeting, like Board of Commissioners meeting expense allowances. And they do in fact, I believe, designate the commissioner's home as their workstation. I was in a job like that when I worked. My home was my workstation. I was allowed to go to Lansing for meetings. I did get paid for that. So it's a pretty simple way to address that. And the other thing that I noticed is that I think part of what needs to happen here is that you need to decide your status. Are you an employee, like Commissioner Bruger asked earlier? Are you an employee of the county? My answer to that is no, you are not. You are the boss of the county. And I think the IRS regulations actually say that. They say, for travel reimbursement purposes, the IRS defines an employee differently from an independent contractor they're talking about, but they say a worker is considered an employee if the business controls or has the right to control not only what work is done, but how it is done. The business, Ottawa County, does not control Sheriff DeBoer's work. The Ottawa County organization does not control Prosecutor Matoysik's work. And the Ottawa County organization does not control you. You are the boss. And so you are not an employee. And that makes a difference. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, Chantal Martineau, Park Township. I wanted to make basically the same points that Becky was making, but sort of in the inverse order. I think that in your discussion of the commissioner expense policy, you're putting the cart before the horse, and the whole discussion seemed like you really got lost in the weeds of following the IRS guidelines about what is about taxing the reimbursement. But I think I forget which one of you brought up during the discussion, the first thing that you need to decide is, what is the goal? What is the goal of your policy? And then after you decide what the goal is, then you need to figure out whether or not it complies with any existing laws and adjust it to comply with, to be in compliance with stuff. And I also wanted to emphasize that as a member of the public, my primary concern with this policy is transparency. You can make whatever policy you like about how much money you spend and who gets to do what and whether it's reimbursed and whether you follow the policies for county employees, which I would echo, you are not county employees, you are elected representatives of the people. And as one of the people who, as people are fond of saying, pays your salary, which I kind of hate that formulation, but it's basically true. My concern is to know how you are spending the money
And in the policy that you guys were discussing today, it seems like you are making that more difficult rather than easier to discover through, like, we would have to go through all the financial plan to look up each commissioner's name, and then we'd only see a lump sum of what you were spending and not what you were spending the money on. Whereas the current reporting is every month in the finance committee meeting, we get to see that reporting of the mileage. I would like to see the reporting of any other expenses you have too. So I hope you continue to discuss this going forward, and bear in mind that that transparency is at least as important as the money itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Ovitz, Spring Lake. To no one's surprise, I'd like to address the discussion today about the commissioner mileage policy. If, as the board was informed, reimbursement for commissioner mileage is not a universal benefit for electeds if you compare counties to counties, I would prefer a policy that provides the most transparency possible for the public to be able to see the amount of dollars spent on those commissioner reimbursements. And with that in mind, I'd prefer not to see a policy that discontinues the current commissioner expense and mileage policy in favor of using the employee purchasing and mileage policies. And also, yes, commissioners are not employees. So again, I'd like to see that distinction made in the way those expenses are reported. I'd also like to make a very brief comment, and this is more out of an emotional response. I don't really have the right words to put this maybe succinctly into a statement, I guess, as much as an emotional response. I was struck by the number of cases Sheriff DeBoer described in his report today that involved violence against women. For me personally, that was particularly jarring in light of Commissioner Miedema's comments in response to the introduction of the new executive director of the Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance. Again, as a woman, I am keenly aware of the ways in which what are now disparagingly referred to as DEI initiatives have historically supported efforts to support and raise women in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments at this time?
After this is released in my Ottawa.org, if you have any comments, please just email them to us and we will respond to your questions. So, at this time, motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Jacob, how long you want to